Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda and today we're going to be talking about my 5-star reads. I couldn't figure out the way to do it this year in 2022 because last year I just took the last section of books that I had read in my book journal or my book journal, and I talked about all the 5 stars in the book journal. So the way I'm going to do it this year is I think I'm going to stop at like every 20 to 25 books that I've read, and then I will just talk about all the 5 stars in that section. So right now, I'm going to go back through the last 20 books that I've read and pull out the 5 stars from there and talk about them. So let's get started. The first 5-star read that I have is Assassin's Apprentice by Robb and Hobb. This book was a birthday read from my friend Brandy. Her birthday is in January, and so one of her favorite books is Assassin's Apprentice, and so I was like, okay, I'll read it. And it was fantastic. I've already talked to her about it. This was the first book in the Farseer trilogy, and we get to meet Fitz. It is a fantasy book about you find out in like the very beginning that he has no memory of the first 6 years of his life. So we kind of just jump in when he's 6, and he is telling this story now as an adult person. He's going back and like telling everything that happened. So the good news is, you know that Fitz is not going to die. The bad news is that Fitz has horrible things happen to him as he's growing up. And so he finds out that maybe he's not like everybody else. He also finds out that he's maybe tangentially related to the royalty in some kind of way. And so he is raised in the castle, but definitely not as part of the royal family. So it is such a great book. Like, she does a great job of establishing characters, and I just fell in love with Fitz. I fell in love with everybody else that we met. Well, not everybody, because some of them make really bad choices. But I just had so much fun following Fitz through all the adventures that happened in this book, and I cannot wait to get to the next ones in the series. The next 5-star read is one of my J.D. Robb books, and it's Witness in Death. And I know that I say that they're all great. They do not all get 5 stars, but this one did. I really liked it so much, the way that we got to find out not just the actual crimes, although the crimes in this one were really unique, but also just finding out more stuff about Eve's background and the way she and Rourke kind of work together and are finding their footing with who they are as individuals and who they are together. And I just really thought that this was a standout of the great series, because all the books have been really great, but occasionally there are a few that just really stand out, and so this was one of them. The next 5-star read was Skyward by Sanderson. I'm now officially a fan. This is book number 7 of his that I've read, and I love it. I love Mbot. He's my favorite. I talked about this in one of my weekly wrap-up live streams. Mbot is my favorite. I also like the Doom Slug, which doesn't have a name other than Doom Slug. At least I think that's what it's called. Now I can't even remember if that's his name. But I like all of them. I love Spensa. Like, Spensa is, when we meet her, she is a teenager who is trying to overcome the labels that she's been given because of who her parents were, specifically her father, and the things about him that have happened. And so she is determined to become a pilot and to prove everyone wrong. And it is such an underdog story, and she has so many things thrown up in her way and blocking her from being able to do what she wants to do, and she just never gives up, and I love it. I loved the other members of her squad that we got to meet when she was in school training, and I can't wait to continue. And completely changing genres, we're going from fantasy to now horror, and City of Blood was my next 5-star read. This is book number 5 in the Nightmareland Chronicles by Daniel Barnett, and I am pretty sure, I haven't gone back to look, but I am pretty sure that I have given every single book 5 stars, and it's not because I get to go on a live stream and actually talk to Daniel. It's because the books are fantastic, and there is something that happens in every one of them that just moves us forward in the overall storyline, but also in the individual storylines of the people. I don't even want to tell you who is still alive at this point by book 5, but I am loving the way things are coming together and the people are just finding themselves more or becoming more fleshed out for us. Maybe that's really what's happening, but I love them. I love where the story's going. I love who the characters are, and I cannot wait to follow them along in the other books. And I guess I should say, even though I know this is book 5, the series starts in book 1 where the sun falls from the sky. And that's what's going on. This is the aftermath of what happens after nightfall, which is what book number 1 is. So I highly recommend it. They're so short. Even if you're like, nah, I don't know if I'll like it or not, just go pick up book 1 and give it a try. If you absolutely hate it, then stop. If you're just a little bit confused, then go ahead to Lullaby, which is book 2, because Lullaby is even shorter and it really starts solidifying what's happening and where we're going after the initial panic of, oh my gosh, the sun just fell from the sky. So I highly recommend it. So good. Okay, my next 5-star read was a graphic novel called Terminal Lance, The White Donkey. And this is by Maximilian Uriarte. He is a Marine, and he wrote this book. It's not a memoir about his life. It is a fiction book, but it is about joining the Marines, being deployed, what happens on a deployment sometimes, and then dealing with the aftermath of it when you get back. Like how the civilians act toward you, your family members and strangers and whatever else, and how you're just dealing with the inner struggle and stuff that comes with being deployed in a hostile environment. This book deals with PTSD and with suicidal ideations. There is a very good author's note in the back that I highly recommend you read. You could probably read that before you read the book, but either way, it was so good. I really enjoyed this book. And like I said, it's a graphic novel. It is pretty thick, but because it's a graphic novel, it doesn't take long to read. So if you're interested in any of those themes of like war and especially people dealing with the trauma of war, I think this is a really great read. And my last 5-star so far is Mozart Starling by Lyanda, Lynn, Haupt. This book made me like birds. I mean, I don't like them. I don't like them still. But it made me less hostile toward birds. But also at the same time, I learned so much about Mozart, and I learned so much about language and how language is formed and what scientists are doing right now with different animals and learning the language of just the different people in the world and how language is formed and how all of that stuff happens. You wouldn't think that's what this book would be about, but it definitely has some of that in there. I love how she goes back and forth from Mozart and his Starling to her life living with her Starling, and it's just so good. I loved it so much, and it is a nonfiction book, but I would highly recommend it for anybody. And I did listen to it on audio, and it was really good. So that's it. That's my 6 5-star reads that I had over the last 20-something books that I've read, and I have really had a good time with all of these books. They're in a lot of different genres and a lot of great stories and just great writing in general. So if you've read any of these, let me know down below. I want to know what your favorites are. What's the last 5-star read that you read? You can let me know in the comments that as well. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.